Welcome to another deep dive.
Oh, yeah.
Get ready to explore
Yeah.
the world of Elizabethan and Jacobean drama.
Oh.
Okay. You've shared some fascinating selections from A.W. Ward's A History of English Dramatic Literature to The Death of Queen Anne,
Okay.
focusing on Shakespeare and his contemporaries.
Right.
I'm excited to unpack this with you and see what hidden gems we can uncover.
It's not just about Shakespeare, though, is it? Ward really emphasizes the incredible network of talent surrounding him, those who collaborated with, competed with, and even sometimes outshone him.
It's like trying to understand a brilliant painting by focusing only on the most prominent figure and ignoring all the intricate details in the background that give it depth and context.
Exactly. So let's start with Shakespeare, but with a twist. Instead of getting bogged down in the well-trodden path of his biography, why don't we approach him as a product of his time?
What were the forces, the events, the anxieties of that era that might have shaped his work?
That's a great point. We often think of Shakespeare as this solitary genius, but he wasn't working in a vacuum. His plays were born into a world on the cusp of transformation. England was emerging as a global power, but there were also a lot of social and religious tensions bubbling beneath the surface.
Think about it.
Right?
The old feudal order was crumbling. The gap between the rich and the poor was widening. And religious conflicts were brewing.
Oh, wow.
All of this must have created a sense of both excitement and anxiety. A feeling that anything was possible. But also that the world as they knew it was changing rapidly.
And those anxieties find their way into his plays, right?
Absolutely.
The themes of ambition, betrayal, power struggles, the fragility of life. These weren't just abstract ideas for Shakespeare.
No. They were the realities of his world.
Take Richard II, for example. The play's depiction of a king's deposition wasn't just a historical drama. It was a commentary on the very nature of power and the precariousness of leadership. Shakespeare uses powerful imagery and language to explore the psychological torment of a ruler stripped of his authority. And given that this play was potentially performed around the time of the Essex Rebellion in 1601, one can't help but wonder if those themes of rebellion and the consequences of challenging authority might have resonated a little too closely for comfort with some members of the audience.
Now that's what I call a deep dive.
Oh, yeah.
You're making me see this play in a whole new light. But what about the man himself? Is there anything about Shakespeare's personal life that might offer clues to his artistic vision?
Well, even though his biography is shrouded in mystery, we can still glean insights. Take his rural upbringing in Stratford. It's no coincidence that his plays are filled with rich descriptions of nature, from the forests of Arden in As You Like It to the storm-ravaged heath in King Lear. These natural settings aren't just backdrops. They're integral to the play's themes and moods.
So even those missing pieces of his biography become part of the puzzle, prompting us to look for connections between his life and his art in unexpected places. It's like a literary treasure hunt. But speaking of missing pieces, what about the so-called lost years after Shakespeare left school? Some scholars suggest he might have worked as a schoolmaster or even a lawyer's clerk.
Those are interesting theories, but they remain just that, theories. However, I'd argue that focusing too much on these lost years can distract us from the bigger picture. Instead of speculating about what he might have been doing, let's look at what he actually did. He wrote plays, and he wrote them brilliantly. That's where the real treasures lie.
I see your point. It's like getting caught up in the backstory of a musician instead of listening to their music. But the fact that he started as an actor before becoming a playwright is quite telling, don't you think?
Absolutely. Imagine the insights he must have gained from being on stage, from understanding the nuances of performance, the power of language delivered with passion and precision. This experience likely gave him a unique perspective on character development and the dynamics of storytelling.
It makes you wonder if his early roles influenced the types of characters he later created. Maybe he even drew inspiration from the actors he worked with.
Right.
Their personalities, their quirks.
It's certainly possible.
Yeah.
And that brings us to another intriguing aspect of Elizabethan theater, the collaborative nature of the craft.
Right.
Ward highlights how playwrights often work together, sharing ideas, even co-writing entire scenes.
That's a far cry from the image of the solitary genius toiling away in isolation.
It is, yeah.
What were the benefits and challenges of this collaborative approach?
Sure.
And how did it shape the plays of the era?
Well, for one, it must have fostered a sense of community among the playwrights.
Right.
They were bouncing ideas off each other, learning from each other's strengths, pushing each other to be more innovative.
Right.
And this cross-pollination of ideas likely led to a richer and more diverse theatrical landscape.
But surely there must have been challenges, too.
Oh, yeah.
How did they navigate issues of authorship and creative control? Was there ever a sense of competition or rivalry that spilled over into their work?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
There were definitely rivalries, especially between strong personalities like Shakespeare and Ben Jonson. Jonson, for example, was a stickler for classical rules and structure.
Okay.
While Shakespeare was more willing to bend the rules and experiment with form.
It's fascinating to think how their differing approaches to playwriting might have fueled their creative rivalry.
Yeah.
Almost like two master chefs with contrasting styles, but equally devoted to their craft.
And that rivalry wasn't always a bad thing.
Right.
It likely pushed both men to be even better, to refine their skills and strive for excellence.
Right.
And sometimes they even put their differences aside and collaborated, as we see in plays like Henry VIII, where Shakespeare's hand is clearly evident alongside John Fletcher's.
So even with these strong personalities, the spirit of collaboration often prevailed.
It seems so.
It makes you wonder if those joint efforts resulted in plays that were greater than the sum of their parts.
It's a fascinating question, and it highlights the difficulty we sometimes face in separating the work of individual authors in these collaborative plays. But that's part of the beauty of this era. It was a melting pot of creativity where individual voices blended together to create something truly unique and unforgettable.
Now that we've established Shakespeare's mysterious beginnings and his collaborative spirit, let's explore how his plays reflected the turbulent world he lived in.
Okay.
What can we learn about Elizabethan and Jacobean society from the stories he chose to tell?
We can learn a great deal.
Yeah.
Shakespeare's plays are like windows into the soul of his time. They reveal the hopes and fears, the dreams and nightmares of a society grappling with change and uncertainty.
It sounds like a deep dive within a deep dive.
It is.
Let's start with one of his most enduring and popular genres, his comedies.
Right.
What do they reveal about the lighter side of Elizabethan life?
Well, on the surface, his comedies are full of wit, romance, mistaken identities, and happy endings. They offered audiences a much-needed escape from the everyday worries and anxieties of their lives.
But I'm guessing there's more to them than just lighthearted entertainment.
Sure.
What deeper messages might be hidden beneath the surface of these seemingly lighthearted plays?
You're right. Even in his comedies. Shakespeare doesn't shy away from social commentary. He often uses humor to expose hypocrisy, satirize the follies of the wealthy and powerful, and explore the complexities of human relationships.
So even when he's making us laugh, he's also making us think. It's like a delicious meal with unexpected spices that linger on your palate long after the last bite.
Precisely. And that's part of what makes Shakespeare so enduring. His plays entertain, they challenge, they provoke, and they offer insights into the human condition that are as relevant today as they were centuries ago.
Speaking of insights, let's move on to another prominent figure of this era.
All right.
Someone who, unlike Shakespeare, was quite happy to step into the spotlight and let his personality shine.
Okay.
Ben Jonson. Take it away.
Ben Jonson.
Yeah.
A fascinating character indeed. He was a man of contradictions.
Okay.
A scholar and a bricklayer.
Wow.
A poet and a brawler.
Okay.
A friend and rival to Shakespeare himself.
A Renaissance man in the truest sense of the word.
Yeah.
But how did those contradictions play out in his work? Was he as complex and multifaceted as a playwright?
Oh, yeah.
As he seems to have been as a person.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Jonson's plays were just as bold and unapologetic as his personality.
Okay.
He wasn't afraid to use satire as a weapon to expose the hypocrisy and folly of his time.
Right.
Much like today's political cartoonists use their art to comment on current events.
So Jonson's satire wasn't just for laughs. He was using it to hold a mirror up to society and challenge the status quo.
Right.
What were some of his favorite targets?
Oh, he took aim at everything from greed and social climbing to the religious hypocrisy and the absurdities of fashion.
Okay.
He had this incredible ability to skewer human weaknesses with wit and precision, making audiences laugh even as they squirmed in recognition.
He sounds like a theatrical provocateur, someone who wasn't afraid to ruffle a few feathers.
That's right.
What were some of his most popular and controversial plays?
Volpone and The Alchemist are prime examples.
Okay.
In Volpone, he exposes the greed and corruption of wealthy Venetians who are willing to do anything to inherit a fortune.
Wow.
And The Alchemist is a hilarious satire of those who prey on the gullible and superstitious, promising them wealth and happiness through alchemy and trickery.
These plays sound like they would have been as relevant in Shakespeare's time as they are today. Human nature, it seems, doesn't change that much, does it?
You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
And that's part of what makes Jonson's work so enduring. He had this uncanny ability to tap into the timeless follies and foibles of humanity.
Right.
And he did it with such wit and style that his plays continued to delight and provoke audiences centuries later.
So we have the master of mystery Shakespeare and the witty satirist Jonson, two giants of the Elizabethan stage, each with their unique style and vision.
Right.
But the theatrical landscape of this era was far richer and more diverse than just these two towering figures.
Oh, for sure.
Ready to meet some more of the players?
Absolutely. There's a whole constellation of talent waiting to be discovered.
Okay.
Each with their own unique contribution to the vibrancy and innovation of this golden age of English drama.
Well, let's dive in then, shall we?
Let's do it. Let's venture beyond the familiar and explore the world of George Chapman, a figure who might not be as instantly recognizable as Shakespeare or Jonson, but whose contributions to this era of drama are equally significant.
I'm all ears.
Good.
From what I've gathered from Ward, Chapman was primarily known for his translations of Homer's epic poems, the Iliad and the Odyssey.
Yeah.
That's a pretty impressive feat in itself.
It is indeed.
Yeah.
Chapman's translations were highly regarded in his time and continue to be admired for their poetic power and scholarly rigor. But what's often overlooked is his remarkable talent as a playwright, particularly in the realm of tragedy.
So he brought that same epic sensibility to the stage.
Absolutely.
What were his plays like?
Well,
did they have that same grand scope and larger-than-life characters?
Absolutely. Chapman's tragedies, like Busy d'Amboise and its sequel, are full of passion, intrigue, and ambition. They explore themes of honor, revenge, and the corrupting influence of power. Themes that resonated deeply with the Elizabethan and Jacobean audiences.
Ward also mentions Chapman's unique writing style, describing it as being heavily influenced by his classical learning. What did that look like on stage? How did his style differ from Shakespeare's, for example?
Well, imagine a stage filled with vivid, almost painterly scenes. Each are one meticulously crafted with rich language and complex characters. Chapman wasn't as concerned with a tightly woven plot as Shakespeare was. Instead, he focused on creating these powerful, emotionally charged moments that showcase the inner lives of his character.
It's almost like he's creating a series of theatrical tableaux. Each one a masterpiece in its own right. But if he wasn't as focused on plot, what held his plays together?
Well,
what kept the audience engaged?
His characters. Chapman had this incredible ability to create characters that were both larger than life and deeply human. They were flawed. They were ambitious. They were capable of both great love and terrible deeds. And their struggles, their triumphs, their downfalls were what kept the audience on the edge of their seats.
So it was the psychological depth of his characters, their inner conflicts, that drove the drama forward, rather than the external events of the plot. That's a fascinating contrast to Shakespeare's approach.
It is indeed.
Yeah.
And it highlights the diversity of styles and approaches that coexisted during this period. There wasn't just one way to write a play, one way to tell a story. Playwrights were constantly experimenting, pushing the boundaries of the form, and creating works that were both innovative and deeply engaging.
It sounds like Chapman's plays would be a treat for anyone who loves language, who appreciates those intricate details and the power of a well-crafted phrase to evoke emotion and create atmosphere.
Absolutely. And for those seeking something a bit different, a bit off the beaten path, Chapman's comedies offer a fascinating glimpse into his lighter side. They're not as well known as his tragedies, but they're full of wit, satire, and social commentary. And they showcase a different facet of his talent.
I'm adding those to my reading list.
Good.
But for now, let's shift gears again. From the epic grandeur of Chapman's tragedies to the bustling streets of London, the world of Thomas Dekker awaits. What can you tell us about this playwright and his unique contributions to the Elizabethan stage?
Dekker was a fascinating figure. A true man of the people. Unlike Chapman, whose work often dealt with the lives of the elite and powerful. Dekker's plays focused on the everyday lives of ordinary Londoners.
From shoemakers to shopkeepers, from apprentices to con artists.
It sounds like he was capturing the heartbeat of the city. The energy and spirit of the common people. Was he trying to give a voice to those who are often overlooked or marginalized by society?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Dekker had a deep empathy for the struggles of the working class.
Right.
He understood their hopes and fears,
yeah,
their dreams and frustrations, and he brought those experiences to life on stage with humor,
right,
warmth, and a touch of social commentary.
It's interesting to think how different audiences might have responded to his plays. Would the wealthy and powerful have appreciated his portrayal of the common folk?
Right.
Or would they have seen it as a challenge to their authority?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
I suspect it would have depended on the individual and their own worldview.
Right.
Some might have found his plays amusing.
Yeah.
A glimpse into a world they knew little about.
Others might have felt threatened by his portrayal of the working class as resourceful,
right,
resilient, and capable of challenging the status quo.
It sounds like Dekker was walking a tightrope.
Yeah.
Using humor and entertainment to deliver a subtle but powerful message about social inequality.
Right.
What were some of his most popular plays?
One of his most beloved works is The Shoemaker's Holiday. Our heartwarming comedy that celebrates the simple joys and struggles of a group of London shoemakers.
Right.
It's full of laughter, music, and romance, and it offers a glimpse into the vibrant community life of Elizabethan London.
So a bit of escapism, but with a heart of gold.
Right.
Were all his plays in this lighthearted vein?
Not at all.
Okay.
Dekker was a versatile playwright, capable of exploring both the light and dark sides of human experience.
Okay.
His play, The Whore of Babylon, for example,
right,
is a stark contrast to The Shoemaker's Holiday. It's a dark and disturbing allegory about the religious and political tensions of the time,
right,
a powerful critique of corruption and abuse of power.
Wow, that's quite a range.
It is.
From heartwarming comedy to biting social commentary.
Right.
It sounds like he wasn't afraid to tackle difficult subjects and challenge his audiences to think critically about the world around them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Dekker's plays are a reminder that the Elizabethan and Jacobean stage wasn't just about entertainment.
Right.
It was a platform for social commentary.
Yeah.
A place where playwrights could engage with the big issues of their day and provoke their audiences to think differently.
And with Dekker,
right,
we see that those issues weren't always confined to the world of kings and queens.
Right.
He brought the concerns of the common people, the heartbeat of the city, to the forefront of the stage.
Exactly.
What a fascinating figure.
He truly is.
Yeah.
And he's just one example of the incredible depth and breadth of talent that flourished during this era. There's a whole cast of characters waiting to be discovered, each with their unique voice and perspective.
Let's meet a few more, shall we?
Let's do it.
Ward mentions John Marston.
Okay.
A playwright known for his sharp wit and controversial plays.
Right.
What made him stand out from the crowd?
Marston was a bit of a rebel.
Okay.
A literary bad boy who delighted in pushing the boundaries of what was considered acceptable on stage.
Okay.
His plays were often satirical, even cynical.
Yeah.
And he wasn't afraid to offend those in power.
Sounds like he was walking a dangerous line.
He was.
What kind of trouble did he get into with his plays?
Well, one of his plays, The Malcontent, was so biting in its satire of the court that it actually led to a temporary ban on all plays in London.
Wow.
Imagine that a playwright so provocative that he managed to shut down the entire theater scene.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
He must have really struck a nerve.
Yeah.
Did.
What were some of the themes he explored in his plays?
Marston was fascinated by the darker side of human nature.
Okay.
The hypocrisy, greed, and ambition that lurked beneath the surface of polite society. His plays often featured characters who were driven by these darker impulses.
Right.
Characters who were willing to lie, cheat, and betray to get what they wanted.
It sounds like he was holding up a mirror to the darker side of Elizabethan society.
Yeah.
Revealing the ugliness that often hid behind the facade of power and respectability.
Right.
Not exactly light entertainment.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
Marston's plays were meant to challenge, to provoke, to make audiences uncomfortable.
Okay.
He wanted to shake them out of their complacency and force them to confront the darker realities of their world.
He sounds like the kind of playwright who would be right at home in our own era, challenging social norms and sparking debate with his provocative work. And that's what makes this era so fascinating to explore.
Right.
These playwrights weren't just entertaining. They were engaging with the big issues of their day, using the stage as a platform for social commentary.
Yeah.
And their voices continue to resonate with us centuries later.
Speaking of voices, let's move on to another playwright who, unlike Marston, was known for his versatility and range. Thomas Middleton. Tell us more.
Middleton was a master of both comedy and tragedy, able to shift seamlessly between genres and create works that were both entertaining and thought-provoking.
Right.
He was a bit like a theatrical chameleon, adapting his style and tone to suit the subject matter at hand.
So he wasn't afraid to experiment, to push the boundaries of what was expected of a playwright.
Exactly.
What were some of his most successful and enduring plays?
Well, on the comedic side, A Chaste Maid in Cheapside is a hilarious satire of London life, full of witty dialogue and outrageous characters.
Right.
And on the tragic side, The Revenger's Tragedy is a dark and bloody tale of revenge and corruption.
Wow.
That explores the destructive nature of power.
It sounds like he had his finger on the pulse of both the light and dark sides of Elizabethan society.
Yes.
Able to capture both the humor and the horror of human experience.
Exactly. And that's what makes him such a fascinating figure. He wasn't just a talented playwright. He was a keen observer of human nature. Able to capture the complexities and contradictions of the human condition in all its glory and tragedy.
And finally, we come to John Webster. A playwright known for his dark and powerful tragedies. What set him apart from the other playwrights we've discussed so far?
Webster was a master of the macabre, a poet of the shadows. His plays are full of violence, intrigue, and a profound sense of despair.
Wow.
He explores the darkest recesses of the human soul, the corrupting influence of power, and the inevitability of death.
Wow, that sounds intense.
It is.
His plays must have been quite a contrast to the lighthearted comedies of Shakespeare and Dekker.
Oh, yeah.
What were some of his most famous and disturbing works?
The Duchess of Malfi is perhaps his most famous play. A chilling tale of a noblewoman who defies her brother's wishes and marries for love, only to be subjected to a campaign of psychological terror and ultimately murdered.
Wow.
It's a powerful and disturbing exploration of the themes of power, corruption, and the resilience of the human spirit in the face of unimaginable cruelty.
That sounds incredibly bleak.
It is.
Was there any room for hope or redemption in his plays?
Very little, I'm afraid.
Okay.
Webster's world was a dark and unforgiving place,
right,
where even the most virtuous characters were ultimately doomed to suffer and die.
It's interesting to think how his plays might have resonated with audiences at the time. Were they seeking escape from the harsh realities of their lives?
Yeah.
Or were they drawn to this darker,
right,
more cynical vision of the world?
That's a question that scholars continue to debate.
Right.
Some argue that the popularity of Webster's tragedies reflects a growing sense of anxiety and disillusionment in Jacobean England.
Right.
Others suggest that audiences were simply drawn to the spectacle of violence and the psychological thrill of witnessing characters grappling with extreme emotions and moral dilemmas.
Perhaps it was a bit of both.
Could be.
After all, even in our own era, we're drawn to stories that explore the darker side of human nature, whether it's in the form of crime dramas, horror movies, or psychological thrillers. There's something fascinating about peering into the abyss, even if it makes us uncomfortable.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And Webster's plays offer a particularly compelling and disturbing glimpse into that abyss. They challenge us to confront the darkness within ourselves and within the world around us.
Right.
And they remind us that even in the midst of a golden age, there were shadows lurking at the edges of the stage.
So we've journeyed from Shakespeare's lyrical comedies to Jonson's biting satires, from Chapman's epic tragedies to Dekker's heartwarming portrayals of everyday life, from Marston's provocative social commentary to Middleton's versatile explorations of both comedy and tragedy, and finally to Webster's dark and disturbing world of shadows and despair. What a journey it's been.
And we've only just scratched the surface. The Elizabethan and Jacobean stage was a vibrant and dynamic world, teeming with talented playwrights, each with their unique voice and vision.
It's like a vast and intricate tapestry woven from the threads of countless individual stories, each one contributing to the richness and complexity of the whole.
Exactly.
But as we wrap up our exploration of this era, I can't help but wonder, what does it all mean? Why should we care about these plays, these playwrights, centuries after they lived and worked?
That's a great question. And one that lies at the heart of why we study history and literature. These plays offer us a window into another time, another world, but they also reflect something timeless about the human experience. The themes of love and loss, ambition and betrayal, power and corruption, the search for meaning and purpose. These are themes that resonate with us across the centuries.
They remind us that even though the world has changed dramatically since Shakespeare's time, the fundamental questions about what it means to be human remain the same.
Absolutely.
We still grapple with the same challenges, the same hopes and fears, the same joys and sorrows.
And that's what makes these plays so relevant, so powerful, so enduring. They offer us a way to connect with our own humanity, to see ourselves reflected in the lives and struggles of characters who lived centuries ago. And they remind us that even in the face of adversity, in the midst of darkness and despair, the human spirit has an incredible capacity for resilience, for love, for hope.
They offer a glimmer of light in the darkness. A reminder that even in the most challenging of times, the human spirit endures.
It's amazing to think how these plays, written centuries ago, can still speak to us so powerfully today. They offer a timeless reflection of human nature, but they were also products of their specific historical moment. Ward emphasizes that the Elizabethan and Jacobean eras, while often lumped together, were actually periods of immense change. How did those changing times influence the trajectory of English drama?
Think of it like a river, constantly flowing, evolving, shaped by the landscape it passes through. The early Elizabethan period was like the headwaters of energy, experimentation, drawing inspiration from both classical and medieval sources. Playwrights like Christopher Marlowe, for example, captured that sense of boundless ambition and exploration that characterized the early years of Elizabeth's reign.
Marlowe's plays are like bursts of fireworks, full of passion, violence, and that insatiable thirst for knowledge and power. You can almost feel the energy of a nation on the rise, pushing the boundaries of what's possible.
Exactly. And as we move downstream, so to speak, into the later Elizabethan and early Jacobean periods, the river deepens, grows more complex. Shakespeare's great tragedies like Hamlet and King Lear reflect a more introspective mood, exploring the darker recesses of the human psyche, grappling with questions of fate, mortality.
And the corrupting influence of power.
It's like the bloom of youth has faded, replaced by a more nuanced understanding of the world's complexities and the inevitability of loss. Even the language of these plays seems to shift, becoming more introspective, more psychologically driven.
Precisely. And as we flow further into the Jacobean era, the river takes on a darker hue. The optimism of the Elizabethan age gives way to a sense of disillusionment. A growing awareness of the fragility of life and the pervasiveness of corruption. Playwrights like John Webster tap into this vein, exploring themes of death, decay, and the futility of human ambition.
The plays of Webster and his contemporaries are like the deep, still waters of a river, reflecting the anxieties of a society grappling with uncertainty and change. You mentioned the gunpowder plot of 1605. The religious divisions, the threat of war. All these factors must have weighed heavily on the collective consciousness.
Absolutely. The theater became a space to grapple with these anxieties, to explore the darker impulses of human nature, and to question the very foundations of power and authority.
So while we often speak of the Elizabethan or Jacobean era as a monolithic block, it's important to remember that it was a period of constant flux. And the plays of this era reflected those changing currents, both in their themes and in their stylistic evolution.
It's a reminder that even within a so-called golden age, there's always more to discover, more to unpack, more to appreciate.
Speaking of appreciation, if you could step back in time and experience one of these plays as an audience member in Shakespeare's Globe, which one would you choose?
What a delightful question.
There
are so many tempting options.
I know, right?
But if I had to pick just one, I think I'd go with Twelfth Night. It's one of Shakespeare's most joyous and heartwarming comedies, full of mistaken identities, witty banter, and that wonderful blend of romance and melancholy that he does so well.
I can almost imagine the groundlings cheering. The scent of roasted nuts in the air, the thrill of seeing those characters come to life on stage.
And to think those same same words continue to resonate with audiences centuries later.
It's incredible.
It's a testament to the enduring power of storytelling and the timeless nature of the human experience.
Well, I think we've successfully navigated the currents of Elizabethan and Jacobean drama.
We did it.
Uncovering some hidden gems and gaining a deeper appreciation for this remarkable era.
For sure.
What stood out to you the most about this deep dive?
For me, it's the realization that even within a period as well-studied as this, there's always something new to discover. It's a fresh perspective to consider. It's like peeling back layers of an onion, each layer revealing new complexities and nuances.
And for me, the biggest takeaway is the sheer diversity of talent that flourished during this era. We tend to focus on Shakespeare.
We do.
But exploring his contemporaries reveals a whole constellation of brilliant playwrights. Each with their unique style. Their own perspective, their own contribution to this golden age of English drama.
And they weren't just writing in isolation. They were part of a vibrant theatrical community. Collaborating. Competing, inspiring each other to push the boundaries of what was possible on stage.
And as we wrap up this deep dive, what's the one thing you'd like our listener to ponder as they continue their exploration of this era?
I would encourage them to remember that these plays weren't just entertainment. They were reflections of their time grappling with the social, political, and religious issues that shaped Elizabethan and Jacobean England. So as you read these plays, as you watch them performed, think about the world they were born into, the anxieties they explored, the conversations they sparked, and ask yourself, how do those same themes resonate with our own world today?
A perfect note to end on.
It is.
We encourage you to delve deeper into the works of Shakespeare and his contemporaries, to discover your own favorites, and to share your insights with us.
Yes.
Until next time.
Okay.
Happy reading.